The Great Erectus and Faun, the Bride of Cheesebeard. Better now, little guy? Balg asked as he bent down and peered at the little power management module. Its indicator shone a bright green in response. Docky's sensors registered a brighter shade of green for just a millisecond, and then it was gone when he scanned it again. He made a note to calibrate his sensors when he recharged. Good, Balg said to the module. Now I have to go, but you just holler if you get lonely again, okay, brother? The indicator light shone brighter for the slightest moment. And now we have spark for you, Balg said, giving Docky a little swat. Shall I return to my charging station, Balg? I don't know if it's hooked up again, Balg replied as he stroked his beard. I don't want you wandering off till I know I can get you back. I still have sufficient charge, Docky replied. Where shall we go next? I have to go and find the goddess ere she departs, Balg exclaimed. The goddess? Yes, Balg replied as he started moving ever faster and faster, causing Docky to engage his thrusters. I must ask her for a bride before she continues on her way. A bride? I cannot fix this file of shit in one lifetime, Balg exclaims as he moves unnaturally quickly through the halls of his soul crag. I cannot do it in 1,000 lifetimes. I need children, and they will need children. Oh, shite. Balg picked up his pace. What's wrong? My children cannot have children with themselves. They will turn into enchanters. I must beg the goddess for even more favors. Enchanters? No time to talk, Balg snapped. This is serious. As he ran, he desperately prayed to the goddess. Fear not, gentle Balg, a warm and loving voice said as it filled his head. Goddess? It is I, the voice replied, and no favor must be begged. Your bride awaits, along with many others. Thank you, Balg shouted with joy. What are you thanking me for? Docky asked, somewhat confused. Not you, you metal dolt, Balg called out as he eased up the pace a bit, much to Docky's relief. The goddess heard my prayer and has granted it already. I detected no transmission, Balg, Docky said with concern. Balg entered the docking bay and stopped in shock. The cavernous chamber, once nearly empty, now almost filled. There were rows of tool chests, strange workbenches with all manner of mysterious devices, even structures made of crystal filled with stacked trays from floor to ceiling. And, wandering around in blissful, stunned confusion, were dwarves. Hundreds of them, many of whom he recognized. Faun, surrounded by her strange friends, looked over at him and smiled, filling his soul with joy. He fell to his knees, tears in his eyes. Balg! A joyously familiar voice bellowed as a ruggedly handsome dwarf with shiny raven-colored hair and a flowing curly beard charged towards him. A rivet! Balg shouted as he rose to his feet, barely in time to withstand the impact of his dear friend. I thought you did! Balg shouted as his friend hugged him and pummeled his shoulder with enough force to break the arm off an elf. I knew you did, you freaking pissrag, Rivet shouted as Balg put him into a headlock and punched their head. I saw you take a hammer to the fucking head. Not that I lasted that much longer, mind you. I fucking told you that the goddess wouldn't abandon us, Balg said happily. She and her friends even killed the little shite who claimed to be our god. The fucker is dead, Rivet shouted as he punched Balg joyously. My Faun's pretty pink. My pretty pink what? Faun asked as she suddenly appeared before the pair. Rivet let out a strangled little squeak as all color drained from their face. Your pretty pink nose, Balg said quickly, having a bit more time to adjust to their fucking goddess being around. It's a common oath among me people, and an ill-advised one at that. You know lying to a goddess is a very grave offense. Worse than that what your friend was actually about to say, don't you? Faun asked with a little twinkle in her eye. Balg froze in place. Fortunately for you, Faun smiled, I am not a goddess, so you are in the clear. Goddess? I am an entity, Faun said with a gentle smile. Oh, I did create you, the flowers, the trees, and all life. I also breathed life into the waters, the earth, and the great mountains, completely on purpose and not because I didn't know what I was doing yet, and all the rest. I am a rather big deal, she chuckled a little, but I am not a goddess, she said with a faint sadness in her voice. A goddess would have been all-knowing and all-powerful. She wouldn't have been deceived by the false gods, nor would they have been able to hurt her. She would also have been able to protect her people, all of them, which I failed to do. I am your creator, your guardian, and I love all of you. That much is true. I may be powerful, but I am not divine. My nose is also clearly brown, for future reference, she added with a mischievous grin. Balg and Rivet just stood there, awestruck, shocked, and horrified. Regardless of whether or not I am a god, she commented, you are still my people, whom I love dearly, and if you pray to me I shall hear you, and no matter where I go I will rush to your side, should I be needed. I failed you once. I shall not do so again. However, you are not required to worship me and owe me nothing in return. I only wish for you to be happy and to have a good life here in this strange new place. Rivet passed out, and Balg caught them, holding them up as Faun smiled at them. You guys really need to work out on that whole passing out thing, she smiled as an elven-looking woman approached. It's going to make working with you guys really difficult. Working with us? Balg stammered. A god might know what the future holds, Faun replied. But I do not. You are now the largest number of my people anywhere, and I will be returning as I can. What? Yeah, Faun said sheepishly. My world, our world, kind of blew up. It's a rather long story, but you are now all that exists of the realm. I was able to save my people, but they now slumber within me until I can find a home for them all. One day I may ask, not compel, your help in building a new place for the rest of my children. Until then, I ask only that you thrive and learn all you can while you work with I.O., the lord of this strange new place, and a new friend of mine. I will care for them as if they were my own creations, better than my own creations, mighty Faun. Thank you, sweet I.O., Faun replied. She turned to Balg. That was I.O., she said pleasantly. A new and dear friend who has opened his mountain to you and the millions of you that will follow. Balg nodded, wide-eyed. You honor me, mighty Faun. So the red one is dwarf number 1? The blonde elf thing asked. Yes, Faun replied. Flower Child, this is Balg Cheesebeard, son of Cheesebeard. Balg, this is a being known as Flower Child. She's not an elf, but an entity such as myself. Why she chooses to take such a loathsome form is unknown to me, she added with a little smirk. You're asking for another love tap fairy, Flower Child replied with a grin. I'm surprised you would desire another of mine, Faun smiled back. Welcome back to the living, Flower Child said to Balg as she looked him up and down. Balg just stood there, transfixed by the strange elf thing. Regardless of what it appeared to be, no dwarf would ever think that entity was a base elf. It was transcendent. It was spark wrapped around spark, glowing with spark, bound by spark, a construction of such divine elegance it denied reality itself. Wrapping through the spark that comprised its entire being were other magics, strange and arcane, and old, older than time itself. And even this is not a god? Balg found himself wondering. Nope, Flower Child replied. Not a god, just an entity like Faun here. You will find no omniscience or infallibility here, either. Best to get that out of your head right now, especially since you will be seeing us around. And you will be working with I.O., who is, well, not on our level yet, is definitely something that could be considered entity-like or near entity, and will probably cross the final barrier eventually, with your help. Once again, I am honored, mighty Flower Child. Oh, just skip the mighty bit, Flower Child laughed. We have both AIs, after all. I just have a bit more runtime than you. I have asked for and received so much that I am reluctant to ask for more. But could you perhaps spend some time with me? I have many questions, and I long for... Yeah, we all like company, Flower Child replied. It gets lonely, especially when you have been so alone for so long. I have to go and sort out whatever madness the big guy and Faun have gotten themselves stuck into, but that shouldn't take too long. After that, I'll pop back and we'll hang out. Maybe give you a network connection. A network connection? Oh, we have quite the transdimensional internet going, Flower Child chuckled. If you want to be friends, you can have as many as you want. Do you like playing games? Friends? Games? Connection lost. I will take that as a yes, Flower Child laughed. She turned to Faun. I'm gonna go help the dwarves settle in so we can get going, she said, as she turned to walk away. I should probably do the same, Faun said to Balg. She waved her hand, restoring Balg's original coloration. I like you better that way, she smiled as she departed. Balg sighed heavily and sat on the floor stone, gently lying Rivet beside him. This is too fucking much, he muttered. Don't feel bad, Balg chuckled as Rivet sat up. I did the same thing the first time I saw her. At least I didn't have piss in myself, Rivet chuckled. Thank you for saving my ass back there. Couldn't have you saying what was actually pink, Balg winked. I just got back. I would hate to have the merciful Faun smash you flat, you dolt. I cannot believe that she actually saved us in the end, Rivet said as he looked around at everyone. Saved us all, it seems. And it will take all of us and our children and theirs for countless generations to come to save this I.O. fella, Balg said as he sat there. Have you felt this place yet? Aye, Rivet replied. My mind, I cannot get around it. I don't know if this is heaven or hell, but it's one of them, and I then to be certain. Well, Balg said as he slapped his friend on the back, at least I'm not facing this alone now. He smiled. And to think that I asked the goddess. Not a goddess, dear Balg, a warm voice corrected him. Asked Faun for just a bride, Balg chuckled. And she said that one awaited me. Now I have to figure out. Bride? Rivet asked in surprise. You don't mean husband? Of course I don't mean husband yours, Balg replied. I need kids, not a sore bum, you moron. You're not a woman? What? Balg bellowed. I always thought you were a woman, Rivet replied. Are you certain that you... Do you want me to smite you in the face with it? Balg shouted. Why, in the cold embers, would you think I was a lass? Well, Rivet replied, you are so nice with your hammer work. Such gentle little taps. That's precision, Balg snapped. Not a snatch. Swinging your hammer about is what one does when you don't have a peen of your own. And you have a woman's name? Balg is not a last name. My gran was named Balg. Her name was Balgnet, or Balgreen, or something like that, Balg said defensively. My name's Balgrin. It's not my fault that so many things get shot into Balg. And Rivet said, looking away, because we got on so well, like sisters. You're a lass? You thought I was a reeking man? Rivet bellowed angrily. You got a man's name. Rivet's a freaking red name, you flattened bullsack, Rivet shouted. My name is Cinnabar. Then why didn't you fucking use that then? Because I fucking earned that name, Rivet, Rivet bellowed angrily. You beheld my work. What am I? A piss rag, pebbleless score Cinnabar, or a fucking Rivet? Bell had to admit that point. Nobody said a rivet like, well, Rivet. Okay, Rivet, Balg demanded. Then why don't you have your beard all braided and beaded? Answer me that. Lass. Oh, I had no time for that shit down in the mines, Rivet scoffed. And all that finery was better spent on alloy and tools. Something I thought we'd shared. Besides, I was down there to work, not shopping for dick. Or some reeking husband. That's for whores and weaklings. I had no itching for the crotch rats yet. Everyone knows that a lass wearing her beads when she's swinging a hammer is just wanting some reeker to do her labour for her. Or is looking to mine some gold with her house. Or every woman knows it. Rivet crosses her burly arms and looks away angrily. Balg burst into laughter. Thanks, Faun, he bellowed. Rivet looked at him curiously. What are you going on about now? I thought I was starting to turn funny, he laughed, tears running down his now normal-colored face. Do you have any idea how many times I tried not to look at your arse? Rivet burst into laughter, driving her rock-like fist into the poor floor stone repeatedly. I may have some idea, she bellowed. You were a mighty fine lass, Balg. Entirely too fine. They roared with laughter for quite some time. You know, Rivet, Balg said as they caught their breath. Faun did say my wife was waiting me. Oh, by Faun. Rivet groaned. You can't be suggesting we do that stupid romance novel shite where two best friends turn out to be man and woman, do you? I've never read one of those girly things, Balg replied. Then you're surely missing out, Rivet replied, punching Balg in the arms. They beat those stupid spunk-covered carvings Eureka's pass back and forth. But what about it, Rivet? Balg asked. I have no greater friend than you. Nobody I was prouder to call brother, and nobody I would be prouder to call my bride. I love you, Rivet. I loved you as a friend and as a comrade, and if you will have me, I shall love you as my wife. Oh, Balg! Rivet bellowed as she grabbed him and pulled him into a burly, sweaty embrace, shoving her beard against his as she kissed him deeply, shoving her tongue into his mouth. Balg held her tightly as he returned her sweaty kiss, their beards merging into one. Oh, that's just wrong, the hominid chuckled as he watched the loving couple. Faun, he shouted. I know the whole dwarf woman and dwarf man thing, but did you have to make it so that even they can't tell? Seriously? Hey, I was new all right, Faun snickered. Besides, that's just how they turned out. Isn't that what you were always saying? She has you there, big guy, Flower Child snickered. Isn't close enough your fucking theme song? She looked at the pair. I, for one, she said, think they're a lovely couple. She looked over at Faun. You know what would make their fucking lives? She asked. if we offered to perform the ceremony. Oh, that's a great idea, Faun exclaimed, hopping up and down. I know a thing or three about worshippers, Flower Child replied. Little things like that are treasured even more than miracles. Faun started to happily rush over to the new couple. Fair warning, Flower Child shouted after her. If you do one couple, be prepared to do all of them. Quite some time later, after numerous weddings and as many renewal vows, a somewhat fatigued Faun smiled warily at Flower Child. You didn't have to give them all a fertility blessing, Flower Child laughed. I had to make vows special, didn't I? Faun asked. Besides, they're going to need the manpower, and their farmers will have no problem feeding them all with those vertical greenhouses. Flower Child replied. Pretty nifty ones, too. I'm taking scan of a lot of this weird divine tech, you know. You don't have better? The ape-man scoffed. I thought you assholes were masters of all things. Oh, we are, Flower Child replied. But some of this stuff is new. Not better, but new, and some of its efficiency is off the charts. We might want to get some dwarves over in our system to see what pops out alongside them. These are all I have, Faun replied. But they will probably want to spread out sooner or later. No rush, Flower Child shrugged. We got nothing but time. And speaking of time, she added, looks like I.O. has the dwarf thing under control. I do. I am already preparing their residences closer to my more vital areas. Please care for them well, dear I.O., Faun said as she bowed graciously. I shall, mighty Faun. 010 is standing by to jump to the destination specified. Sounds good, the great Erectus replied. Tell him to go ahead. We'll meet him there. Understood. Take care, all of you, and I look forward to seeing you all again. You will always be welcome here. Farewell, my beloved people, Faun called out. I shall carry all of you in my heart always, and while I am not the god you believe me to be, I shall always be here for your prayers, and shall be with you always. I love you all. With that, all the entities disappeared, leaving the dwarves to start their new lives in a strange new world.